Good morning. We're going to go up to the field where we're irrigating and work on our traveler here a little bit this morning. I've got this new seal for the inlet, so we're going to go get that installed while we're not pumping water, we're not using it, we're not under big time pressure to go and do it. So hopefully it's not too terribly muddy up there, but I'm sure we'll be fine. So let's go. Okay, so we are going to replace the seal that's in there. And I think we can just take out this one bolt and the whole thing will pivot out. If not, we'll have to take this one off as well and disconnect our hose here. But we're going to try and just do the one to start with and see if it'll pivot out enough to get the seal out or not. Because I imagine that's sort of heavy to try and maneuver in there by myself. But I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Okay, let's see what happens here. Ooh, I need some leverage. It's tight and it's way above my head, so I can't pull on it very good. Got it. There's been a lot of water go through that little hole there. Okay, so now up in there, there's a seal. We got to get that one out and put the new one in. I don't feel anything that's really wrong with it, but it's been leaking, so we're gonna put a new one on. Well, there's the old one. It's quite shiny on that inside edge. I imagine it's worn, but nothing like nicked or really gouged out of it. This one's got a little bit more of a lip here, I think, than this old one does. I don't know. Put the new one in. Okay, that's all back together. That job was a lot easier than it could have been. That could have been really difficult, but wasn't too bad. So anyway, I'm not starting it up now. We got plenty of moisture up here. This ground is still wet on top, and we're gonna let her go today. We may let her go all weekend. We'll see. Today's Friday, so and there was a pretty good chance of rain. Well, at least a few days worth of 40-50% chance of rain Sunday through Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. So maybe we'll be done for a little while. One other thing, I've gotten a few questions and comments about this PTO shaft right here. Good eye, that is indeed a PTO shaft. What it's used for? Well, the only thing I've ever used it for is this hand wheel to wind it in manually fits on there. So I can turn it and kind of wind up the hose if it gets loose or something and I need to do it a little bit before I start the motor up. I can use that. But I do believe that they put an actual PTO shaft on there to wrap the hose on initially from the factory. So I've never used one, never done it. I suppose it could be done if you wanted to wind it in really fast. But yeah, that's my best guess as to what it's there for. Oh man, this corn is just beautiful. So you see how he's starting to get these leaves that are pointing straight up here? Yeah, like that one. I don't know what the actual term for that leaf is or what it's called, but I always kind of compare it to the flag leaf on wheat. It's that last leaf before the wheat heads out. Well, it's the last leaf before the tassels come out. In fact, we can see just a few of them starting to peek out here. This corn's getting ready to tassel, and we're going to start pollination here next week. Or this weekend even. But the rain yesterday morning was perfect timing for that. We certainly could use some more next week while we're pollinating this corn. That's about the most critical timing for corn plant for development of the ear is when it's pollinating. So yep, we're gonna make sure it doesn't get dry now, but right now we're in good shape. It appears that Dad's doing a little tree trimming, edge of the field maintenance. Probably finding himself some new logs is what he's doing. You can see where the edge of the field is there versus where the old fence is. This would be the property line here, this fence. So we've got a good, what, 15-20 feet from the property line to the edge of the field. So that's why he's going through and just taking out all these trees that are encroaching on the field and pushing them back a little bit. So maybe we can farm a little bit closer, but trees suck the moisture out of the ground. They shade the crop. Nothing along the edge is ever any good. So the farther we can push the trees back, the better. Remember the other day when I said he uses his backhoe like a payloader and an excavator? Well, now it's a skidder. What's it been? A little over a week since we combined this field, I think, or about a week. The clover finally catching some sunlight and a little bit of rain now. It's starting to grow already. Growing good. It's starting to turn green, so that's going to be good. It'll grow really well between now and the end of September. We will then spray it and kill it off at that time and chisel it under, work this whole farm, and it makes the ground really mellow and nice for the corn crop for next year. So this was frost seeded back in March. You can go back in the videos and see that. I want to say it was number 107 because I looked it up a few days ago for somebody when they asked me. So anyway, yep, it's doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, now I've been threatening to do this for a couple of days now, but we're gonna actually go do some mowing with that tractor over there. So I'm gonna grab a bottle of water here and we'll get in and go do that. So we try and do a fair amount of mowing throughout the summer, different places and stuff. I haven't had a lot of time to do any yet, but we like to keep our roadsides mowed down along the fields that we farm. The Ohio County that we farm by is pretty good about mowing at least part of it along the road and stuff. Michigan County is terrible. They don't mow roadsides hardly ever. And so we try and do them ourselves. And like now that the weed is out, we're gonna go mow around the outside edges of some of the wheat fields to try and prevent exactly what Dad's taking out now, where the trees encroach on the field and stuff, and just keep everything pushed back, mow down the small trees and stuff like that. And then we have some filler strips and stuff along some ditches that we may mow some of that today. Some of it we have to wait on. I'll explain that later. Well, this is kind of what we're doing here. Just mowing down along this. There's a ditch there. And trying to knock the weeds down, keep everything cleaned up. Yeah. We'll probably make another pass along there and try and get a little closer to the ditch, but sometimes you got to be careful. There's rocks and tree stumps and gullies, and you never know. Don't want to roll a tractor into that ditch. I do know that. This thing goes through some stuff that mowers should not be able to go through. Or maybe I'm not supposed to put a mower through it, but it's knocking it right down. I like to back through it because I can't see driving through it if there's any big stumps or rocks or anything. So if I back up slow, if anything pops up, I can stop real quick. But yeah, whoa, they're like that hole. Cleans it right up. Far enough. Nice. I don't know if there's a fence in there or not, but that's close enough for me. The sales literature brochure for this mower, CX15 John Deere, says that it will take down brush and shrubs up to 4 inches in diameter. 4 inches. I don't buy that for a second. I don't think a 4-inch tree would bend over enough to go under the blades, but it does go through some pretty crazy stuff. That was some thick briars, viney stuff that did a good job. Okay, well, I'm back where I started. Looks better if you ask me. We do have those 2 little fields. This is that farm with them 2 real tiny little fields, so I'm gonna keep working down the road and go around those as well. Okay, well, I got this field done. Everything I wanted to do. Took out some brush along one driveway into this small field where we can get in and out a little easier now without dropping the bean head. So we're gonna fold it up here and head to the next field, kind of back towards the farm. It's 11:15, so we'll head back there for lunch. So on this field here, we've got a ditch right here, and we've got these big filler strips, and they need mowed. However, because they are signed up in a government conservation program, for filler strips, and they pay us something, I don't know how much, but a little bit on those acres that we leave along the ditch, so that we leave them to help filter any sediment out of any erosion or keep the chemicals away and the fertilizers and stuff, so we're not farming right up to the edge of the ditch. It's a good program, but part of that is also that we do not mow it until after August 1st. Today is July 17th, I believe, 16th, 17th, something like that. So we need to wait another couple weeks before we can mow those filler strips. So I can do this stuff along the road. The roadsides are not part of that program, but we're going to wait on those filler strips. We'll come back down here after August 1st, and we'll mow those all down. And the reason behind that is because they're trying to give time for the nesting birds to have hatched and left the nest. I think that's pretty well happened now, but you gotta play by the rules. So interestingly enough, if we were a half a mile that way, we could mow it, because their rule in Ohio is after July 15th. So we do have some filter strips in Ohio that we need to get mowed here. We're going to do them shortly. But yeah, so in Ohio we have to wait until July 15th. In Michigan it's August 1st. Sometimes the best way to do it is just drive right in the bottom of the ditch, which works as long as you can get out. The problem is up there on the other side of this driveway, right in front of me, there's no way to get out on the other end. So you'd either have to back all the way in or all the way out, which is really hard to do when you got angles and slopes on both sides. So we ain't doing that. Maybe we'll come back after harvest and clean up that one. But, whoop, a little low. Okay, well, I'm done with what I'm doing on this field here. So it is almost noon. I'm heading back to the farm from here and going to get some to eat. Check it out, look what I got. Brought my plot signs that I needed. Actually brought me all of the plot signs for everything that's in the plot, but I already put up some of them. Problem is, once again, Golden Harvest has changed their sign design. This one's pretty minor, so I think I'm gonna roll with it anyway, but can you guys see the difference between those signs and those ones? Why? Why do they have to do that? It's pretty minor here. But they changed the color of the orange a little bit. This one's a lot brighter than that one. And the orange strip at the top of the sign, gone. Whatever. Not a big deal. Some of these are corn. We'll use a bunch of those, but basically the rest of these are the corn or the bean ones that we've already got up. So I'm not taking the other ones down to put these up because it's not that big a deal. Nobody's gonna see them anyway. Ooh, look what else we've got. Product guides for 2021. Hard to believe, but it is that time already where we need to start thinking about buying seed for next spring. Crazy. But anyway, I'll look at these here later a little bit. It basically is just a guide that lists all of the hybrids and varieties that we could potentially use in our area. Those are all the corn ones. Tells me what different trait packages they're available in and all that. And then here we've got somewhere, if I can find the right page, the one in the middle here. This one. This one shows all the bean varieties from a 1.7 to a 4.3, which is a much wider maturity than I will use, but everything that I'll need is in there. So we'll have to look through that, see if there's anything new or anything that I need to learn. Go through each variety here a little bit, but yeah, cool, good to have them. So I'm gonna take these signs and go put up some more here. Let's finish this job, I guess. Well, do the new ones stick out like a sore thumb? Not terrible, but certainly noticeable, the difference between that one and those two. Honestly, the old ones look better anyway. Golden Harvest, I don't understand. They're the only company that changes signs like every year. I'll show you in a minute. So I have been working for Golden Harvest one way or another for 13 crop years now. 2008 was my first year. So these are the new style signs. Here. These are the old style. Those are pretty similar. We won't complain too much about those. But look at my wall of signs that I have here. We've got that style. We've got that style, that style, and that style. They've all been since I've been working for them. So that's 13 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different signs in 13 years. That means they're changing them every 2 years on average. That's ridiculous. Beans are not much better. We used to sell NK soybeans, so they were the NK style signs, which at one point was that. At one point was that one. Then they switched us to Golden Harvest beans here a few years ago. So now they match the corn signs. I don't think we ever had any of that style in beans, but certainly those ones, and then now the newer ones. So, I mean, it's fine. I get you upgrade your branding and your image and stuff, and I do like the newer ones better than the older ones. But how many times has Pioneer changed their signs in the last 10 years? Or Asgrow, or Beck's, or any other seed company? Doesn't make sense to keep going through inventory like this. We've got them. Let's use them. Stop changing them. I was putting up lot signs and I saw something drive by, so we got to go check it out. Look at that thing. Neighbor's going to work up his wheat stubble. That's a deer quad track. This guy usually runs red quad track. Oh, it's the dairy. They're going to spread manure on that. It's not the guy that farms it. It's a custom outfit. You gotta work it. Interesting. Okay, well, I've worked on quite a few of the corn ones here. Still got a few that are missing down on this end. Honestly, I don't have a couple of them yet, but I got a lot of them. I put these ones flat against the corn, mostly because when you get out in there, it'll be really tight if I had signs sticking out on both sides. And then all of the bean ones. Oh yeah, we gotta clean that thing up yet too. There's never a shortage of stuff to do, is there? And I do want to get a truck ordered or scheduled to come and pick up those empty chemical shuttles. Check it out. I got a box today. Has some goodies in it. I ordered some stuff last week. We got a couple of hats, some Golden Harvest stuff. We got some rain gauges. We got some hitch pins, which these are nice. This is about the most practical thing you can possibly have to give away. Hitch pins. You can never have enough hitch pins, and these ones look decent. They even come with a little spring clip. So, and then these are mostly just for me to have around here. Nice pair of scissors. So anyway, some stuff anyway. I usually have a field day sometime towards the end of August, 1st of September. I'm not sure if I'm going to do one this year. I just, with the current climate of stuff, I don't know that anybody would come anyway. So I'm still debating, but usually I get a bunch of promotional stuff like that to give away. But like I said, I don't know. I'm still planning there. I need to get out, see some of my customers, talk to them, feel them out, see if they would even come if I did. Or kind of what I'm thinking about doing is just having a plot day. Come at your own pace whenever you want. We'll walk through the plot, not doing a formal meal and talk from the agronomist and stuff, and just kind of hanging out here someday and saying, come walk through it whenever you want. Spread people out that way so that we don't have a big group here all at once. I don't know. Yep, I'm gonna be that guy driving real slow, videoing while the tractor's in the field. I see them all the time, but yep, it's gonna be me today. Pretty dang cool. A buddy of mine works for the company that, or this outfit that's doing that. I was hoping he was in a tractor, I'd jump in with him, but nope. Before you all start asking me if we're gonna buy one of those, that guy was probably a $600,000 outfit there between the tractor and the river. No, probably more than that. 650 to 700,000, I bet, between that high-speed disc and that tractor. That was a 9620 RX, which is the biggest tractor Deere makes. Probably 550,000 just for that tractor. So, no, we won't be buying one anytime soon. Sorry. So this here was one of our first planted cornfields. I believe it was April 24th when we planted this. You can see we're just a little bit farther ahead here with tassels and stuff. Some of this right here on the ends is a little behind because of the water and compaction and stuff. I also sprayed part of this field right where we're looking with that early fungicide, and untrained eye from a ways away, but it looks to me like the spots that I sprayed are farther ahead than that side of the field was that did not get sprayed. I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's not. We're going to walk out here and take a look, and I'll kind of show you how pollination process on corn works. Walking in cornfields is no fun when the corn is tall. It's especially no fun when it's 90 degrees and humid and sunny out. But when the corn is pollinating is the biggest and most important time to be out in your field seeing what is going on. So that's why we're walking out here. It's not super tall, but it's not terribly short, so this looks good. Okay, definitely shedding pollen here. I'm gonna get turned yellow here. So, all right, let me show you a test. So we've kind of showed these a little bit, but here we can see they're all kind of fully emerged now. They're all shedding pollen right through here. And basically, we'll pull this one down so we can look at it. You see all of this, these little things hanging off of that tassel. Those are called anthers. Think back to your high school plant science class that I'm sure you all took. And that is basically the male part of the flower. They are what shed pollen. So I don't know if it'll show real well here, but let's say this one here, and I'm gonna just knock it a little bit. There is a little bit. You probably can't see it, but look at these leaves down here. Let me get out of the sun. Maybe it'll show better. Yeah, you see all this dust on there? That's all pollen. It's all pollen. And that's falling from the tassels up top down. And what we're trying to do is get it to land on the silks. So these silks are attached to the kernels on the ear. Every single kernel has a silk attached to it. And what happens is the pollen falls off the tassel, the male part of the plant, onto these silks, which are part of the ear, the female part of the plant. And so once these silks get a pollen grain stuck to it, it travels down the silk into the kernel and pollinates it, at which point the kernel starts to develop. Yeah, pollen falling everywhere. So I'm gonna peel back an ear and show you that a little bit better, and a cool trick that I learned. Before I do that, you'll notice that pretty much all of these plants only have one set of silks. It's just the one ear. Remember, we've talked about this and why that is. I showed you that there's ears on all of these nodes pretty much all the way from the ground up, but they don't make it to actually putting ears on. So once in a while you'll find one that put silks out in two spots like this one here, but there's a skip. So this plant is compensating and it has two ears. Those are actually turning brown already. Interesting. So anyway, yeah, now let me peel an ear back. Okay, I picked an ear. I'm gonna walk out of the field to do it because it's miserable in here. Pollen all over you, hot, sweaty, sticky. Corn leaves are sharp on the edges and they cut you. It's, yeah, try and keep your arms out like this to deflect them out of the way so they're not hitting you in your face, but no fun walking out here. Before we get clear out of the field, we're also checking leaves, looking for any lesions, disease, insect feeding, anything we can find that might be affecting these corn plants. Really, this field looks pretty clean. Like I said, I did spray a fungicide out here when it was really small, so I don't expect to find a lot, although that fungicide is probably no longer doing us much good. So sometimes you'll see a little bit of stuff like this. I think that when it's on the tips like that, it's really from wind making these leaves rub together, and it kind of rubs it raw almost, and rubs some of the chlorophyll and tissue off of it. So this out here is 109-day corn. You can see already how much bigger this ear is than the one that we pulled apart on that plant. When was that? Like a week and a half ago? And this was that size then. I mean, that's how fast this ear is developing right now because we're reaching that pollination time. So one thing that we worry about when it's dry and we're trying to pollinate is the silk's not growing fast enough, because I forget the exact percentage, but these silks are like 90 or 95% water. So if it's dry and the plant doesn't have enough water, the silks grow really slow. And if they don't make it out of the husks when the plants and the tassels are shedding pollen, then there's no way for the pollen to get into the ear, and then you have major issues. I've seen it before. Not going to be a problem, at least in this field. There are several layers of husks on the ear. They're kind of like the ears on that plant were, where they're wrapped in opposite directions. And I wouldn't really call them nodes on the ear shank here, but they definitely all attach up this ear shank. And eventually we'll get to the ear here. And I'm trying to be very careful because I want to do this gently to show you something. So I'm getting closer to the center. You'll notice that these husks are kind of wrinkly and loose. Well, that's to give them room to expand as the ear grows in there so that they can stretch and keep it covered. Okay, I'm making it to the ear. You can start to see the little kernels in there and all the silks. See how those silks all kind of run down? Well, each one of them runs to a kernel. Now it's going to be very hard for me to show you this with one hand, but basically you can tell if a kernel has been pollinated or not based on whether or not the silk is still attached to it. So usually I'd like to peel this last leaf, husk, whatever you want to call it, all the way off, and then you kind of hold the ear up and shake it. And if the silks fall off, let me pull that off of there. There we go. If the silks fall off, like some of them did, that means that kernel is pollinated. If they're still attached, like some of them are, we timed this perfect, then those kernels have not yet pollinated. So there we got a pile of silks that just kind of fell off by me shaking it. Put it in the sun here, maybe you can see a little better. But we're about halfway through pollination at this point. So the kernels on the tip have not yet pollinated. Most of the bottom ones have. There's a straggler here and there that still have a silk attached, or maybe they're just trapped on the end there. But yeah, that's cool. Okay, so there's our ear. That's what it looks like right now at this growth stage, which I would call this R1 growth stage, first stages of reproductive. Basically, this is going to keep growing and what would be what we harvest. We can kind of sort of take a very, very crude yield sample, yield test, or check, I guess, at this stage, but I wouldn't put much faith in it. So we'll count how many kernels there are in a row, and then we'll count how many rows are around, and then we can tell how many kernels are on this ear. I don't know if it's focusing very well, but to that kernel right, basically at the tip of my thumb, there's 39. So we're about 39, 40 long. That's assuming that the rest of those half pollinate, which I think they will. I didn't count these ones clear on the tip because there's a pretty good chance those won't, or if they do, they will die off and not actually develop because of how dry we are. But okay, rows around. Easiest way to count them is to break it in half. And one thing we know about corn is it will always have an even number of kernel rows. So you'll always get either like 14, 16, 18, sometimes 20. This one is 18, which is great. If this ear develops like that, it's 18 by 40 long, and they're all like that, we're in really good shape. They aren't all going to be like that. But this was a good one. So now, based on that information, we have an ear, and let's just assume that it's a sample, it's a representative ear of the entire field. Now, this is not how you do this. Normally, when we're doing yield checks, you count 5 ears, you take a stand count, you go 5 different places in the field, and you average it all. We're doing 1 ear. I did not take a stand count, and we have no idea if this is representative or not, but let's just say that it is for a minute. So we go 18 times 40, and that gives us kernels per ear. And then we times that by our population. And so right here, I planted this at probably 34,000. let's assume that we're going to get 31,000 harvestable ears per acre. We'll say there's a loss of 3,000 plants per acre, which would be high. But this year, maybe pretty close. So let's take that. We'll do 18 times 40 times 39,000. So I'm sitting here editing this video several hours after I filmed this, and I realized that I said 39,000 and not 31,000, and that screws up every number in the rest of what I just said. So I'm going to subtitle it with the right numbers, ignore the numbers that I'm saying. They're wrong. So I just did some quick math. That gives us 28,080,000. Basically, that's saying that you would have 28,080,000 kernels per acre. Okay? Kernels per acre. Now, historically, we know that on average, there are about 90,000 kernels in a bushel. Now, this can vary depending on environmental and weather conditions, anywhere from 70,000 to 110,000. But 90 is kind of our average, so that's what we're going to use with. So now we're going to take our 28 million, whatever, and divide that by 90,000 kernels per bushel. You know how I know this is wrong? Because the answer to that math equation is 312. So if we had 31,000 plant ears that were just like this one per acre, in every acre across this field, it would average 312 bushels per acre. Completely out of the question. Ain't no way, ain't no how. We'll be lucky, really lucky, if this field averages 200 bushel the acre. So we'll do some more thorough yield checks as we get closer to harvest, or at least past pollination and the ears are developing and filling out. I've actually got a spreadsheet, go figure, that will calculate this for me. All we have to do is take stand counts and pull 5 ears and count it, input the information, and it spits out a yield. So, but preliminarily, hey, it's great, right? Okay, well, I'm done with signs for a while. Well, probably not. I need to put more up sometime next week, maybe. I've got to load some stuff up in the back of my truck to take home for the weekend. And then I've got to go home and get ready. I've got a big day of cooking tomorrow. Doing a bunch of ribs and some pork butts for a little get-together tomorrow. Yeah, that should be okay that I say that. May or may not be a surprise party for somebody that I don't think they'll see this before then, so we should be good. Don't tell them. Anyway, we gotta load some stuff up. Got our cornhole boards. Bags. Don't ask. Okay, before I go home, there's one more thing I want to do today, and that is mix up a little hand sprayer with some Roundup and spray those weeds that are in the end of that soybean plot there. Won't take me very long, just got to mix it up, get it down there. Little Roundup, little surfactant, little water conditioner, turn on the agitation mode, we're good to go. So much easier than a hoe. Ooh, look what I found. Oh, those little, yeah. Those are Japanese beetles, and they're starting to move in. I've seen quite a few of them, actually. It's not really a problem until they start eating a bunch of holes in the leaves. They say once you get about 20% defoliation is when you need to be really concerned about them and spray for them. I tend to take all the recommendations or threshold levels with a grain of salt, because that may be true for one bug, you know, if Japanese beetles are causing that much damage, but then if you also have some aphids and some bean leaf beetle and all kinds of other stuff out there eating, your thresholds are a lot lower combined than they are for a single pest. So we'll keep an eye on those. We're probably a week or two away from spraying fungicide on beans, and if it looks like there's going to be a bunch of Japanese beetles or other bugs, we'll put some insecticide in and take care of them while we're making the trip. Look how dry that dirt is already. We worked that less than an hour, 2 hours ago now at this point. We had 3/4 of an inch of rain yesterday. It should not be that dry. Whew. I am headed home. I am not working tomorrow, so I will see you guys again on Tuesday morning. It'll be Monday video. Anyway, have a great night, everybody. Have a great weekend, and We'll see you again next week. If you got any questions and comments, leave them down below, but not about Roundup. And hit the like and subscribe buttons for me, please. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Oh, hey, one more thing before I go. So today's video is number 197 since I started doing this back in October. October 13th was the day. That means on Wednesday of next week, assuming I don't make one this weekend, we're going to hit video number 200, which is astounding to me. But if anybody's got any ideas or special requests or things that you want to see in that video, leave them in the comments. When I hit 100, I did a farm tour. That was back in March. We could do that again or something similar, look at the equipment or whatever, but just kind of throwing it out that you guys can give me some ideas if you've got anything that you want to see in that video. We'll try and make it a little bit more exciting maybe. So anyway, yeah. Oh, maybe we'll hit 10,000 subscribers that day too, or slightly before. We're about 100 short. We can get it. We can get it. Hit that subscribe button.